right on time.
Well, with the promise of one of your breakfasts waiting for me, I wouldn't think of being anything else but.
Oh, I want you to know I really appreciate your taking me to work together. What with that car of mine, it's either one thing or another.
Well, I think I'm getting the best of the deal. Am I smelling blueberry muffins?
You certainly are.
Oh, hey, you keep this up, Ione, and you'll have a chauffeur for life.
You don't get one bite until you tell me exactly what happened when you saw your wife. I don't like that look on your face of yours.
It shows, huh? Look, if not a muffin, could you spare a cup of coffee?
Oh, here. Oh, that bad, huh?
It was that bad. It was a mistake, Ione. I should have called first. She was with another man.
Oh.
Lee Carruthers. I used to know him back at the club years ago.
But you did try to talk to her.
I tried, yes, but it was awkward. No, it wasn't. It was downright humiliating. Trying to talk to my ex-wife in front of a stranger. Well, I didn't stick around too long. I'm sure we were both relieved when I left.
And what now?
Oh, I don't know. Obviously, I can either let it drop or try again.
Would be easier to let it drop, wouldn't it?
That's certainly been my style, hasn't it? I used to try to run away from my problems by drinking. You know, you may find this hard to believe, but that's exactly what I did last night when I left them.
Oh, you know, as I get older, I find it less hard to believe anything. But I tell you, you don't have to hold back anything from me. I promise you a good set of heirs and no condemnation.
Oh, thanks, Ione. I'm not proud of going to that Castaway bar last night. Ione, I almost did it. I had that drink in my hand. I must be the weakest person I know.
Oh, folks around here don't think about you like that.
That's a joke, isn't it?
No, it isn't. You know, the Apostle Paul wrote about his own weaknesses, remember? He boasted and admitted about it so that Christ's power could overcome that weakness in him. The real strength came from God and not from himself.
Yeah. I certainly didn't show any examples of strength last night, either God's or mine.
You didn't take a drink.
No, I didn't, but I wanted to. It was only that...
Only God's rearranging circumstances so you wouldn't take that drink, and you ought to thank him for it.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Gene.
Oh, boy, I really want to thank you for driving Mom. I've got to be in court early today.
Well, now, you're going to get some breakfast out now, aren't you?
Well, Mom, with them blueberry muffins smelling like that, of course I am.
What's going on?
Well, you remember the kid I told you about, Monroe Lassiter? He's scheduled to appear before the judge this morning.
Harold Webster's trying to get that charge reduced, isn't he?
Yep, that's right, from breaking and entering to trespassing. Now, if he can do that, he might get his sentence suspended.
And if that happens, the real work begins, doesn't it?
I would have come by before, but I just couldn't get in touch with you. So I decided, the heck with it. I'm going to come over unannounced. And if you're too busy, that's okay. I can leave.
No, not at all. I'm so glad you're here. Listen, I've called you too, but I guess we've just been missing each other, you know? And hey, listen, can I get you something?
Oh, no. Okay. No, I just had the biggest breakfast in the world. Lori, it's like ever since I got out, I think I'm into nonstop eating. And if I'm not careful, pretty soon nothing will fit.
Oh, no, you look wonderful.
Oh, well, I feel wonderful. You know, we just take so much for granted. And I think more than anything else, that's probably what captivity taught me.
Oh, must have been horrible for you.
It was, but we can't dwell on the past, right? That's what you used to say to me when I was in the hospital.
Did I?
Yes, and you would say other things like, God has a purpose in everything. And if something bad happens to us, well, then we know that we're strong enough to handle that because, well, otherwise, God wouldn't allow it to happen in the first place. And it was remembering things like that that really got me through it all.
Well, I'm glad.
Well, I'm not saying that I got through the entire ordeal with flying colors. In fact, there were probably times when I was a good candidate for Mercy Hospital. Oh, that was stupid. I'm sorry. Would you just forgive me?
Oh, Miriam, there's nothing to forgive. I'm not ashamed that I was there, and they really helped me. And in my own words, if it happened, then I must be strong enough to handle it, right?
Yeah, I guess.
It's all behind me now, anyway.
Ione said that you started remembering about that night and that Blue was the one who had attacked you.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad that he got what he deserved.
That doesn't sound like the Lori who ministered to me when I was all beside myself.
Well, it infuriates me that after what he did, the courts probably still would have let him go. Of course, you don't need to hear that from me. You know how horrible he was.
No, Lori, you're wrong about him.
Oh, you scared me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't I tell you I was coming in this morning?
Oh, probably, but rational thoughts aren't my forte when I'm in a panic.
Well, remind me to be noisier next time.
Well, be noisier next time.
Thanks.
So, how were the mountains?
Cold.
And Gil?
Warm.
What is it about you these days?
I don't think I like where this conversation is leading. Biscuit?
Oh, Hammer, I'm shocked. And you are resident nutritionist? Oh,
Occasionally I stumble and go the whole 9 yards. You know, white flour, white sugar, and salt. The 3 white deaths, you know.
ooh, thank you. They look delicious.
And then I stuff the bag into a wheat germ jar and throw it out, and then the garbage man doesn't even know the difference.
You go to great lengths to cover your weaknesses, don't you? Or at least to cover what you consider weaknesses.
Oh, I only do this occasionally, honestly.
I meant, Gil.
I knew she meant Gil. Why don't we start over?
You're really, quite serious about him, aren't you?
She's gonna talk about him anyway, isn't she? Okay. Gil Prescott is self-centered, arrogant, lazy, and insincere. Now, does that sound like the kind of man that I would get serious about?
Well, sometimes we fall in love with people in spite of the faults we see.
Love?
Well, the beginnings of it.
You are way off this time. You're way off.
It was just a thought.
I think I'm gonna get some coffee ready. Did anything exciting happen while I was gone?
I wouldn't call it exciting, no. Your father was here.
What? Why?
Well, I think that's a fairly obvious question, isn't it?
Uninvited?
Yes.
And?
And nothing. It was barely a conversation. It was very embarrassing. Lee was here.
Well, thank God for that.
Why?
Because he could easily see where your life is going right now. Maybe it'll even keep him out of here.
It could, possibly.
And why should that bother you?
Oh, it doesn't. I just felt... I don't know. When I saw him, I felt sorry for him.
Blue Nobles was a murderer and a rapist. How can you tell me I was wrong about him?
Lori, Blue helped me stay alive. He protected me from a man who was much worse than he was.
Oh, so does that make him a hero?
No, I'm saying he was very complicated. He was sad.
No, it does make him a hero to you, doesn't it? I don't believe this. You are taking sides with the man who attacked me.
Lori, I'm not. I'm saying I know what he did was very wrong, but you have to understand where it came from.
The only thing to understand here is that he ruined my life. And God only knows how many other people he's hurt.
Lori, he hurt too, don't you understand? He hurt badly on the inside. When he was just a little boy, his parents abandoned him. So he had to grow up in orphanages and foster homes, and each one was worse than the one before it. I mean, he was under the mercy of some very sadistic people.
Oh, but that's his version, no doubt.
Of course, but I could look in his eyes and I could see that it was true.
Yeah, I remember his eyes. I dream about them all the time.
I'm sorry, Lori. I'm sorry how much pain and anguish he caused you, but I saw a different person, a different side of him that probably no one else in his entire life had ever seen.
Oh, so the next thing you're gonna do is tell me that he taught Sunday school when he wasn't outrageous?
No, Lori,
I'm sorry. But the only Blue Nobles that I imagine is a very sick and demented individual who shouldn't even be allowed on the streets.
Lori, you're right. You're right, but he was also a guy who liked me to read the Bible to him. And Blue Nobles let me have a cat so I wouldn't be so lonely. You're right, he was a sick man. He was an outcast. But see, Lori, don't you see that he really wasn't any different than I was when I lay in that hospital room and you came and tried to reach out and help me because remember how badly I had hurt you.
But it wasn't in the same way.
I thought you told me once that all sin was alike in God's eyes. You told me that, one person's sin wasn't any worse than another one's.
Yeah, in God's eyes, yeah. I'm sorry, but it is worse to me.
Lori, when Nancy tried to have me committed to a mental hospital, and that didn't work, and she tried to kill me, you told me that I should forgive her. Well, that was difficult, but I did. So now are you trying to tell me that you won't forgive Blue?
How can I, Miriam? I'm carrying his child.
Just how deep was Russ Weaver's involvement in his father's business?
Well, I don't know, really. Well, I think any involvement in Vince's activities is wrong, in my opinion.
Well, I understand, but did he ever say anything to you? Did he ever admit that he was involved in any illegal activities?
I really, that's hard to answer.
Miss Prescott, it's a well-known but unproven fact that his father was involved in drug trafficking, numbers, prostitution, undoubtedly some other things as well. If Russ Weaver worked for his father, it's reasonable to assume that he was involved too.
I try not to think of that, Sergeant. I think that Russ is basically a very good person.
Well, of course you do. We don't have any charges against him technically. We just want to bring him in for questioning.
That's all?
Miss Prescott, if he's broken the law, I got to charge him with something.
No, I realize that. If he has, he's brought it on himself.
Did he say anything to you about where he was staying? Give you any kind of indication about where he might be going?
No, he didn't. He did ask me for some money, though. I didn't give him any.
That means he's probably still in the area. My guess is he's going to try and leave the country. So if he tries to get in contact with you, please.
No, he won't. I told him unless he turns himself in, he'd be wasting his time.
If he tries to get in contact with you, please tell him what I told you. We just want to talk to him. Okay?
Okay. If you do find him, please don't tell him I was here.
No, I've been thinking. Maybe you should start seeing Dave again. After all, a real sign of maturity is a relationship built on pity.
Oh, Amber.
Well, I find it very fascinating, Mother. I mean, let's face it, you divorce him, and then you start seeing other men. You even resist Stacy's attempts at bringing you back together again, but suddenly he knocks on your door, and it's all violence and sympathy.
I feel no more sympathy for him than I would any person that I happen to meet on the street. It's your hysteria that makes it seem that way.
You have your opinions about my relationship with Gil and the direction it's going. Well, I happen to have opinions about where you're going. You were in love with him. That's why I didn't want you to see him. It was bound to stir up feelings.
Yes, of pity. And you said yourself that's hardly the appropriate basis for a relationship.
I think it's the first step.
All right. You think whatever you wish. Obviously, nothing I can say will change your mind.
I have to get ready for work.
Wonderful.
Hi, Mom.
Good morning, dear.
Not feeling well?
No. And I'm not in any mood to hear from you what I just heard from your sister.
Hey, wait a minute. Give me a chance. What's going on?
Your father was here to see me.
Daddy, that's wonderful.
All right. Now you just stop right there. I am going to give you the facts, and you are not going to read into them any more than I tell you. Now sit down. Lee and I were just getting ready to go to dinner when he showed up. It was basically, just hello, how are you? If it lasted more than 2 minutes, I'd be surprised. It was very uncomfortable, and that's all there is to it. And I don't want you assuming like Amber that this is the start of something, because it is not. I was very unhappy about the whole incident.
Well, we agree on that.
There will be no quarreling between you two either. If you will excuse me, please.
There's obviously a lot more to all this than she's admitting.
Obviously.
It's interesting.
And I suppose you're just thrilled about it, aren't you?
I told you before, Sergeant Brubaker, Russ Weaver was not involved. He just helped me escape.
I realize that. But we're thinking that if he didn't do anything wrong, how come he hasn't surfaced yet? His reaction is not one of a person that's on the side of the law now, is it?
Well, I don't know about that. All I know is that he helped save my life and Gene Redland's, too. I mean, he was sent out to kill us, but instead he set us free. So I would think that surely that would account for something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, hopefully, but we have to find him first now, don't we? Mrs. Mason, I want you to think real hard now, okay? Was there ever any mention of Russ or any indication that he was ever at Saddleback during your captivity?
No, absolutely not.
You answered that awful quick.
That's because there was nothing to think about. He wasn't there. I only saw Lance and Blue and that Ronnie. They were the only ones who were ever out there.
How can you be so sure?
Well, I had my way of finding things out. I would just ask them the right question every now and then. I would catch them off guard. I knew everything there was to know about that place. I knew that we were 20 to 30 miles from Kingsley. I knew that there were 170 paces between the blockhouse and the main house, that my door faced east, that Lance's car needed a muffler. Ronnie's was so finely tuned that you could barely hear it. I knew that Thursday was for some reason a very important day to them because Lance was always late with my dinner then. And I can go on, I can give you more, Sergeant. But believe me, I know enough that if Russ was involved, I would have known about that too.
It's very convincing, Mrs. Mason.
Thank you. Right now, I think that I'm a little more concerned about you finding Lance. Because in my opinion, he's far more worthy of your time and energy.
So do you suppose that's why your father was down at breakfast?
My mother was really upset, too.
Well, you know, Stacy, that could be a good sign.
That was my reaction. But tell me, why do you think so?
Well, people usually get upset over issues that mean something to them.
Exactly.
And your father's visit might have touched on some feelings that your mother doesn't like admitting, even to herself.
Then I'm not crazy. I didn't dare say that to her, of course, but I'm almost positive that's why she was so upset.
Now wait, Stacy, if this thing is true, you're gonna have to play it easy. Let it happen naturally. Now, feelings like that can't stay buried very long.
I hope you're right.
Hey, Gene. Stacy.
Hi, Mr. Webster. You here to yell at Mr. McGovern again?
No, actually, that's not in my game plan today. Has he done something to upset me?
No, he only upsets me these days. I don't suppose I could hire you to give him a piece of my mind.
Little darling, what did it take to get me back in that office you couldn't earn in 10 years?
Well, if you ever change your mind.
Hey, you ready?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, what's going on?
Well, Monk's case is being heard in court this morning.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about it. Another brilliant victory in court, Mr. Webster?
Well, I hope so.
Wait a minute, what do you mean you hope so, man? Are you holding something back from me?
No, Gene, nothing at all. Gosh, I wouldn't do that. No, it's just that in our legal system, there's no such thing as a sure bet, that's all. Everything's gonna be all right. You're just watching lawyer's version of stage fright, that's all. Now, I'm sure that Judge Martin will go along with Monk's plead for the lesser charge trespassing.
But
Well, of course he is. No, that's just silly. I'm sure everything's going to be okay. And besides, all that time that Monk already spent in jail, I think that the judge will probably suspend the sentence. I mean, that'd be the only fair thing for him to do. Hey, let's go.
no. What were you gonna say? Monk's what?
Nothing. Really, it's nothing at all, Gene. Well, let's go.
Hell, come on.
Let's go, will
Yeah,
you? Just forget
don't
about
knock.
it. Stace, do me a favor. Call on and ask her if she's got an extra special prayer to go ahead and say it, okay? I mean, couldn't hurt, right?